Hello, you're listening to Guardian, and this is interview for centering.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello. Hello and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Hello. Episode 165 coming to you live, pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, July 8th, 2019. The time, 8:39 p.m. Central Standard Time. Or is it daylight savings? I don't know. It gets darker later. Whatever that is. Regardless, episode 165 will be, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the best episode ever. Not only do we have e-news like we do every week, Clutch or Kick. We have a special Clutch or Kick this week, everyone's favorite segment, as we will dive into a handful of topics, letting you know if they are relevant to stay around. Do they clutch or do they get kicked? We'll discuss that. ESL One Cologne finished up the major that never was, so we will definitely talk about that. Tons of storylines to get to there. But before we do that, let's say hello to everyone. Hello, my name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend, Anuj. Hello, Anuj.
What's up? What's up, Timmy? How are you, bud?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm tired. You know, busy
Monday.
Monday, but I got the very rare coffee for me in my DreamHack coffee mug. I don't drink coffee very often, so we'll see how
At least
it
while
goes.
you're drinking it, it brings back some good memories, right?
That's right. It is a nice looking mug.
It is a
DreamHack.
good looking mug.
I love DreamHack's colors, like the blue and orange. Very nice. Very nice. Go ahead
Episode
though and listen.
165, man. They keep stacking.
Yeah.
They're
I
going.
know.
It's rolling along over here.
Yeah. If you're a listener and you're not doing so already, follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Give us a follow. Let us know what you think of the show. If you listen on anything that lets you leave a review, make sure you do that. We appreciate it. Makes us feel good. And be sure to join our Discord. Be a part of the conversation. Before we get too far into this episode, there are some house cleaning items that we need to or want to get to today. The first one, we always got to plug our friends over at Thrive Fantasy. Not only because I'm terrible at remembering, but because they're just good dudes as well. They are a daily fantasy sports app for prop bets. You can go ahead and check them out. Thrive, that's THRIVE. Look them up on your either Google Store or what's the thing called for an iPhone? App Store?
Yeah, the Apple Store.
Apple Store. Go ahead and check them out. Prop bets, they are starting to get more and more involved with esports. They have Counter-Strike and League of Legends up pretty much every day for whatever's going on. And most of the time, they also have free bets. You don't even have to use money. You just go and bet for free, and you can win money. But even better than that, if you give $10 and use the promo code when you register, TCR, you get free $10. So you're already up $10 for your betting enjoyment. I mean, it's a win-win for everyone. But always remember to gamble responsibly. If you win, you're welcome. If you lose, it's not our fault.
We told you to gamble responsibly.
That's how it works. So again, that's Thrive. Go ahead and check them out. It's actually quite fun indeed. The next on the list. Oh, I was reading my notes and I was like, what the hell does this mean? So we are toying around with the idea, Nuge and I, about doing 2 episodes a week Obviously, this involves us moving schedules around in personal life, but we definitely, it's something we want to do. The thing that we are on the fence about is what days work best for listeners. We think Monday and Thursday releases, meaning we record Sunday
Sunday,
nights
Wednesday.
and Wednesday nights is when we record. So we, obviously we record at night, so the episodes are out for the sake of the conversation. The next day is when the majority of people would listen. So that's kind of what we're thinking. We're not really 100% sure. It's honestly, it's up to the listeners as far as what you guys think works better. If having a new episode on Tuesday is better and then having one on Friday for the weekend works, let us know. That's obviously something I don't think we really care. It's obviously whatever you guys want as a listener. So, but we enjoy doing the show, and we're like, oh man, sometimes we just don't even have enough time to. Because remember, the podcast is supposed to be like 45 minutes long. And when was the last time that happened? So clearly, we have enough to talk about for 2 episodes a week. So we want to try to get that for you. Oh, and one other big show announcement. Can I get a drum roll, Anuj?
Does that work?
That's good enough. I don't, maybe
Could you
headphone
plug it
users
in?
can hear that.
Maybe.
uh, exciting. For the second year in a row, TCR will be at the Overwatch League finals this year in Philadelphia. So we actually just got word this week that yes, we did secure press passes. I've had a few people ask, "Hey, are we going to go?" And I've always had to kind of be like, maybe if we can work it out, aka hey, if we don't have to pay for it." so um we will be at the Overwatch League Grand Finals September 29th. So I know I'll be there a couple days early just to do press stuff and media things, get audio for the podcast and for YouTube. Anuj, you'll get there like Sunday morning because you have a wedding in Boston that Saturday.
Yeah, I'll be in Rhode Island that weekend, so I'll be flying down for just for the events. I'll be
Like
pulling in around
convenient and also
2:45
inconvenient.
ish.
Yeah, so
About 15 minutes before they go live, I'll be running in.
yeah. But either way, it will be a good time to go check out. I've never been to Philadelphia, so I'm kind of excited for that.
You can
So
catch us. We'll be wearing our Cowboys jerseys. It should be pretty noticeable.
not me. Not me. I'm actually a fly. I'd like the Flyers, so they won't be playing by then. Ooh, maybe preseason. But are they playing where the Flyers play? That's a good question.
This
They
is the
might be.
Sixers arena, isn't it? I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
the same thing, right?
Is it?
I don't know. We'll have to
It
have
is here, I guess.
someone, one of our
Well,
Philadelphia listeners, tell us if it's all the same stadium that the Overwatch League finals are in. Because that might be a hamper if I want to go see a Flyers preseason game, if there's also the Overwatch at the same time.
they might be
Might be an
conflicting.
issue. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Regardless, we will be there. It will be my. I can say that I've been to every Overwatch League finals in the history of Overwatch League because I was there last year too. So, but it's awesome time. So we're super excited to go to that. Also trying to plan some things out in the future. So always keep an eye on Twitter at the Center Ring, and of course listen to the show every week for up to date things there. I think that's just about it though for housekeeping items. We'll see if I forgot anything later on. But let's get into the juice of the show. The juice, the meat of the show, the juicy meat.
A
ESL
little
One
bit of both.
Cologne ended up finishing up. And I said in the tease that this was the major that never was. Because let's be real, I don't know what dictates what a major is other than the fact that Valve gets paid probably to, I'm sure there's some incentives there, and Valve says, sure, you can be the major this year. But ESL Cologne was for the most part a major, was it not?
Major feel for sure. I mean, it always it's the cathedral of Counter Strike, man. You don't get a much better event, and I'm almost okay with it not being a major in a way because it gives me one more big event during the year that I do look forward to. Right, like there's so many watered down tournaments to like have one have meaning and not have a major tied to it is pretty rare. There's a
Mm-hmm.
couple different places you can think of that are kind of on that same level. Katowice, ESL New York,
New
maybe
York,
DreamHack Masters.
Katowice, Cologne, maybe Oakland.
Yeah,
Sometimes they
for
want to
Cloud9
be.
it is.
Yeah,
Cloud9 and NIP, they seem to be the winners of that
right.
event
Yeah,
every
they
year.
seem to love it.
But yeah, there's not too many of them, so I'm really okay with this not being a major, and it still holds a special place in my heart. So yeah, definitely a fantastic. I mean, it's part of it is just the atmosphere, right? The crowd is fantastic at these events. You generally are getting the best talent at these events. Um, they really had some cool tech this time. If you watched it, you would have noticed a lot of different ways of them doing like actual in-game breakdowns that Sponge and Pimp ran through. I thought that was fantastic. So they really bring their A game for this event. It's definitely one of the best, if not the best.
right. I think the more, I don't know how I want to word this, the further we go into CSGO's lifespan and things don't change as far as how Valve runs it, it's like the less and less actual quote unquote labeled majors are becoming. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but the fact that Cold is willing just to walk away from his roster a month before a major kind of speaks volume to, well, this clearly isn't that important of an event if this guy is willing just to be like, yeah, I'm going to go join a new team right before it, right? To not even stick around and maybe miss out or something like that, or for the team to work out. So we'll get to that in a second. Do you want to just do our normal bit and run down kind of the results,
Yeah, we'll
or?
run through the tournament and go through the storylines kind of just as
All
we
right.
go, I guess.
All right. So starting here, I'm not going to lie, I forgot half of these teams even played in the tournament. The actual main event for Cologne was such a insane roller coaster of a weekend. Like just from like the playoffs in the quarterfinals on.
Yeah.
Like that right there was all you really needed for the event. We're starting with the
Friday to Sunday.
quarterfinals.
I mean, that was everything.
But like I forgot Ents was even in this event.
I think they are hoping people forgot they were in this event. I mean, between them and MIBR, you never expect to see those teams at least that low on the rankings. Granted, you had, I think, what, 9 out of the top 11 teams in this event. So there were some teams that were naturally going to,
Be
have to
upset.
underperform. Um, But with that being said, there was also some teams I thought that were ended up coming out fairly decent from this event that I never thought would be in the top 5 or even 7. So, yeah, and definitely didn't play well, had a rough start to the tournament. Same thing with MIBR, just losing to Fnatic and then getting knocked out in the first round of the lower bracket against Big. And it's a little bit of a different story, losing to Heroic. Heroic's a good team. They've been playing well. They're into the top 10 in the ranking. So they've proven to be a tough out. And then it was unfortunate for them because they met Vitality in the lower bracket first round and got knocked out by them. So a little bit of a different exit strategy for them where MIBR was just looking for the fastest way out the door.
MIBR, we've talked about it. I think it was just even last week or whenever the last time we talked about them. Like they've been in such shambles with their roster. It's funny enough the similarities between, and no one brings this up, but TCR is the only podcast brave enough to do it, so I'm going to do it. The similarities between MIBR and Cloud9 are kind of frightening at this point. Like how it's like they were top of their games, top 5 talent roster you're looking at, and then for whatever reason decided to mix things up a little bit because they were doing poorly, but not that poor. But still, when you're top, previous major winners, you feel like you need to stay there and do anything to make it happen. And now you've seen what happened to both. I mean, we can talk about Cold's era if you want right now, because it has been all but confirmed that he asked to be benched from the roster. He is playing 2 more events. He's going to play Blast Pro Series, Los Angeles, and IEM Chicago. And then
Yeah.
he's going to be off the main starting roster. They're going to try to shop him around. So that leaves, for now, Zeus, their coach, will be filling in for the major. So that doesn't bode well for MIBR right then. I mean, you're playing, it's got to be such a hollow feeling going into events playing with a roster that you know has a timetable on it. Like, what motivation would you have going in if you were like a teammate on MIBR, knowing that Cold, the dude sitting right next to you, is actively asking and shopping around to get off the roster?
It's shocking, like you said, right before the major. I mean, that's the part that blows my mind to not at least I mean, you're already in the major at this point, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just have to show up and everybody has a chance in that sense, right? How many times have you seen teams kind of come out of nowhere and make a crazy run? It happens, all the time. Even in the Brazilian scene, we saw it with Immortals when they played Gambit, right? Like nobody expected them to initially go that far. And so for this to be happening, I mean, part of the problem is Cold himself, right? I mean, you want to put blame on Fallen maybe for IGL or issues within the team, whether it was Phelps being replaced, brought back on, and all that. But Cold Zero hasn't been the best player in the world in over a year at this point, and
Hmm.
and when he fell off, it's naturally going to hurt the team kind of across the board, right? You don't have that hard carry anymore, and you could consistently rely on him. But his game has fallen off to a certain extent, and now whether that's a team chemistry issue or in-game in-game leading strategies, whatever it may be, he's not the same player that he was. So yeah, they have to feel defeated, especially going into it with not a substitute, but going in with your coach, somebody who's not actively on the roster, who probably doesn't play a ton of CS. I mean, his job is to dive into strategic analysis of the
He's
game.
watching it more than
Yeah,
anything,
he's
right?
watching more than playing, and so granted, he's not terrible, but it's just that they're not going to have
If
much of a
anything,
chance.
a coach playing has to be the most frustrating thing for Zeus personally because he knows everything in and out of what to do. He just doesn't have the muscle memory to do it, right? So
Yeah,
he's like
like the
he
raw aim
knows
is not there,
yeah, like he
right?
knows where all of these guys are going to be at any given moment, but he just can't frag and that's okay. Like that's there's no blame or anything going towards their performance at the major. I
It's
wonder
gonna.
cuz you brought up chemistry wise, I wonder if Fallen has kind of lost a little edge when it comes to that. Like, don't you remember it was years ago, like when they really first kind of started becoming, you know, SK gaming,
Mhm.
where Fallen was this outer worldly Counter Strike brain, right? Like he had all the respect in the scene. The dude could IGL anyone and just rally the team around him. And I wonder if over time, like he just kind of lost the locker room, if you will, and like Cold, because like at the time, Fallen was kind of the big guy, right? Everyone knew Cold was the best, but Fallen was right there behind him with the op, right? He was a nasty opper. And I wonder if it's just kind of fallen on deaf ears now where Cold looks at him and goes, dude, you are no longer the guy who can tell me what to do.
Well, I think they realize that internally a bit, right? Because they've changed the IGL role a handful of times now to give other people an opportunity to do it, including Cold himself, right? But that I just don't think that's where he's best suited. And so I think they understand the struggles that Fallen has had recently. Part of it is he innovated a different play style into the game for almost over a period of a year, right? Like they had a year and a half run that was just absolutely amazing. And in Counter Strike, that's kind of the length that you see of dynasties, right? You start from Fnatic in the early, like what, 2015, 2016, going into 2017 SK Immortals, that
Right.
combination. Now to Astralis. Astralis has kind of had their 1 year run, and now you're seeing that evolution again. So the game is just consistently changing. I think it's hard to stay on the cutting edge, and um, I think they had a really good run, but I also do think it's time to probably change it up. All of this started going downhill probably when Taco left the first time, right? Like that was kind of the first big move. Phelps came in, they had a little bit of a good run, and then it just never picked back up. So um, I think it's just time for them to kind of make some changes, bring in some of the younger talent. Brazil's got a ton of it, and for Cold, it's an opportunity to reset. I don't know how people are going to be able to afford his buyout, though. If you recall,
Yeah.
Stewie and Tarek both had insanely large buyouts while they were bench players. So to imagine what Colzera's buyout is, it's probably out of this world, man. So it's going to
Well,
be
and
a tough find.
let's talk about then the team that is rumored to be the most likely to buy him out, and that would be FaZe Clan, who again had a pretty underperforming event this time around. They beat they scraped by Renegades in round 1, 16-14, lost to NRG, who by the way, not a bad tournament for their first time with the
Yep.
roster. Lost 2-0, and then lost 2-0 to Mouse Sports in the lower bracket, thus ending their time in Cologne. So now it's rumored then that they're going to go after Cold. Now I can't tell if this is like a serious rumor or just people memeing on FaZe.
Nico commented on a post with the eye emojis, and that kind of triggered this whole thing. Colzero posted something, and Nico commented on it. I don't see that happening. I think people want it to happen just because it's another all star to a kind of an all star fitted lineup. But FaZe has been really cheap with that fifth player. I mean, they picked up a Dren on loan. They've picked up Neo. Like they could have had more expensive options, and they've chose not to go that route. And to all of a sudden pay 500,000 buyout, I think probably on the low end, of what it's gonna cost, and then you start talking salary. I just don't know how they do it. I don't think they do it. And then from a fit standpoint, I don't think that fixes FaZe's
You have no
problem.
IGL.
It's the same issue, right? So you're gonna have Nico, not IGL, right? You don't want cold IGLing. Guardian hasn't proven to be able to do that. Olaf, Olaf and Rain are also not. That's just not anybody's strong suit on the team. And with the way Counter Strike is played nowadays, you can't just have 5 gunners and be like, "Hey, let's do it. We're gonna outskill people." Like, you gotta be tactical in the way you play this or approach this game. So, yes, it's a sexy pick for FaZe, but I think FaZe needs to find a true IGL, or even, FaZe could be in the same situation where players are gonna wanna make moves on that team, right? And you kind of rebuild that roster, maybe bringing in Cold as somebody is departing the team to kind of offset that money situation for them. But yeah, FaZe was, a disappointment again in this tournament. I say a disappointment. I didn't have high expectations. I did think the Mouse series was the most telling of the two. NRG is playing great, right? So to lose to NRG is not a knock. Mouse has had one tournament with this lineup. They played well in it. They did really well, but then to get 2-0'd by them, I think that's just saying a lot about where FaZe is currently, and hopefully kind of where we see Mouse headed at the same time.
Yeah. Yep. What else? Who's next up on this list here? We had FaZe. You just brought up Mouse. We talked a little about Heroic. Oh, Furia. Furia obviously kind of disappointed in their event after just being, signing new contracts. They were kind of the golden boy in the Counter-Strike scene there for a little bit after DreamHack Dallas, and obviously it's you don't want to jump one way or the other. I'm still on the fence if their roster's legit or if they just had some good performance. Um, 2-0ing Renegades, getting 2-0'd by Navi. That's in the lower. Again, losing to NRG as we just mentioned. They just
Case,
signed those contracts, so it is what it is with them. But I guess
yeah,
only
Case
time will
Serrato and
tell.
Art both played well. I mean, they were both in the top 5 in rating. Granted, they only played 5 maps, so you kind of take that with a little bit of a grain of
Right.
salt, right? Of
Yeah,
where they
yeah. I
ended
always
up.
look at those ending
Um,
ratings as a little.
But again, at least their stars played well. I think part of the issue is going to be now the evolving meta of the AUG no longer kind of being the go-to weapon on the CT side. You kind of saw it go back to the M4 in this particular tournament. Um, I think that hurts them a little bit because they were very dominant AUG players. Like they had, Vici and Art were both pretty stellar and killer on the AUG. So I wonder if that's part of it. Again, I think just another part of it is just a stacked tournament. I mean, they lost to Navi. That's not something to be terribly disappointed in, right? They did handle Renegades, a team they should beat, and again, they lost to NRG. So another like well outfitted team that's in the top 5 of the rankings. I know Mouse is like under 10 right now, although they'll pop up now with this tournament. But they're not a number 13 team in my mind, right? Like Mouse is or Navi is not your typical number 13 team. They're
No.
top 5 in my eyes in terms of how they play. So tough out for them. Again, they'll have a chance to rebound. Um, Obviously, we didn't talk about Renegades and MVP. Both of them fared poorly. They were also in the bottom four there, I guess you could say. A team that I was hoping, I don't know if I got what I wanted out of it necessarily, but was NRG towards the end. I was pretty disappointed in that Vitality matchup going into the quarterfinals. They just stumbled and looked bad throughout that. Again, Stanislaus' first real tournament with the team, so they
Right.
had some promising moments there. Um, but Vitality definitely outclassed them in that matchup when just like 2 weeks ago, NRG, had smacked them a couple of times. They've had a lot of matchups recently. These guys have played, I believe, 5 times in like the last 3 weeks. So um, they're getting a lot of practice with one another, and hopefully that's a fun rivalry for some time to come.
And kind of the belle of the ball with Cologne was NIP. And the
Yep.
reason being is this is one of, I stress, one of the last tournaments for Get Right. Not the last tournament. Sure, it might be his last tournament at Cologne with NIP, but for whatever reason, the entire scene is wanting him to give him the old Yeller treatment and just take him out back and just say thank you for your services as you cock that revolver back and put him out of his misery. And he's like, no, I'm still here. I'm not retiring,
Was there confusion on that part? Because like I felt like the
dude. I think like maybe we had like inside sources or something. I don't know.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was in their Twitter release statement that like his last event will be the upcoming major. So I was a little confused by the treatment because the whole time I started like Googling and looking it up. I was like, wait a minute. Did I misread that? Like he's gone. Like I started shedding a tear. I pulled out my nip jersey. Like I started getting emotional. And I was like, wait a minute, no, he is. Like he's here until the
He's
major.
got one
So
more.
I didn't understand. Look, Get Right deserves all the respect in the world. And in his last tournament, you know, again, although it's a major, it might be a little bit more difficult to do because the major is not like as
Well,
much
and
on a
he
personal
might they
level.
might not make the stage, and this is
Might not make
Cologne,
the
right?
stage,
So
right?
have
But
your moment. I don't blame the home crowd at Cologne for wanting to hear from him. My point was like from the casting standpoint.
yeah, yeah. It seems
Like
like
the
everybody was a
fans
little
obviously
confused.
pay your respects, to one of the greats, but from the caster standpoint, I felt like maybe they jumped the gun a little bit. I have audio here. This is one of, and I say one of because he had like a couple get rights like speeches that he had on, and I mean he was also emotional, which probably you kind of want to match the tone of Get Right to kind of deliver a good show. So this was Get Right, I believe, after the Navi match.
Um, I played. Thank you. I played this game for 20 years. Uh, lived and breathed this game for such a long time. It means the world to me to just be standing here. I I can't really get out the words that I'm feeling right now, but I'm just super happy to be here still. I didn't know this would be so painful for me, but I'm just very happy that still people are supporting me, supporting NFP. And
And then from there, he pretty much just gets choked up. The crowd goes wild, and he just hands the mic back because he couldn't continue on. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Get Right. The dude is a
No, not at
legend,
all.
right?
Yeah.
Like Counter Strike would not be where it is if it wasn't for him. Obviously, I just they have said he's not retiring, so let's wait to
Well,
raise. Let's wait to raise his number. At least let the guy walk out the building first.
they asked him, I forgot who it was. It might have been Stunna or somebody asked him like, "So are you gonna play another tournament with Nip?" And he was like, "Yes." And they're like, "Okay, you heard it here first. He's coming back for one more." And I'm like,
No, we
"No,
heard it on their
guys."
Twitter feed. I seriously think the talent crew here didn't know that. I
Yeah.
really, truly think they all like one of them said, "Oh yeah, this is his last event," and then they all just went with it because like they didn't want to question whoever said it or something because
Yeah.
they were all
And
talking
again,
like this
it
was his
ended up
last event.
being with all that being said, it ended up being a really cool moment. Get Right holds a special place in many CS players' hearts, from players to fans as well. He's a two-time, ranked number one player in the world. He was the first person to master really the spray with every weapon in the game. I mean, people just used to hone in on his videos to watch how he did it. So the dude is truly, truly a legend and will be in the esports Hall of Fame at some point. And then you take his personal character, right? He also
Just a
seems like
good
one of
dude.
the best dudes out there. So again, it was a really special moment. I thought it was a little awkward just because of the way they set it
Just
up,
the
but the moment
constant
ended up at the end of the
the
day being
constant
cool because he
pounding
was
of like, well,
invested with it as
it's
well.
been so nice knowing you get right, and he's
Yeah.
just like, guys, I'm still here. I don't know what.
Well,
Like, I'll see you
Cologne's
later.
also the first place that he won his major, right? So
Yeah.
Cologne, I think, holds an important piece in his heart as well. Fans treated it right. Everything ended up working out just a little awkward at the time. We were just off a couple weeks here, but it's okay.
Right. Save the tears for after the major. That's when
Yeah.
you really want to let him go. So getting on to the main event, you had Navi 2-0ing Nip as we mentioned, and then they played Liquid in the semis. The score line 2-0 Liquid, but it was actually a really good match. But we got to get to it. Dust 2. Now, if you haven't seen this, obviously we're a podcast, so I can't show you, and the audio really doesn't do it justice. You have to Google simple, I don't even know what you would look. Simple's Cologne knife versus Liquid. Oh my god. Simple is the best player in the world, right? Like I'm not like we're still saying that after this
He's
moment.
number one. Yeah.
But what a bonehead play by him. So they were up 12 to no, what was the score line?
Oh man, they were up by like 5 or 6 maps at that point.
I don't think no. Oh, you know what? No, I'm confused. This was not in the semis. This was in the Group A upper brackets. Scratch the semis part, but we're still going to talk about this play
It's like
because it was
14,
ridiculous.
11 or something like that, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. That's why I was confused because in the semis they didn't even
They
they
played
only had
again on Dust 2
four.
in the semis. For
Yes.
those of you that aren't aware, they replayed basically the same map, but yeah, they played
Either
in the
way, in
initial round.
Group A, we're going to backtrack a little bit. Group A, Liquid versus Navi. This was like one of the first ones to start. Dust 2 went to overtime. Liquid ended up winning 22-19. Should never have gotten to that point though. It was 14-11 Navi. It was a 3v1. All they had to do was get, I believe,
Nitro.
Nitro. He is at Xbox. Simple is in CT spawn area, that side of mid. He sees him. He sees Nitro. All you have to do is shoot. And this is why I rage so hard. And Anuj can back me up on this. I never say go for the like. Always shoot. Just go. I mean, unless you're down and you just absolutely need to make the risky play to get money or something involved, just shoot and get the kill. Get the guaranteed kill. Don't be cocky for the knife. Well, Simple kind of has a history of this. He kind of has a history of being a little showboaty. Went for the knife kill, whiffed. Nitro turned around, blasted him, runs through CT. Long story short, gets the clutch, and that kind of just starts the roll right there. They send it to
Propels them
overtime
to
eventually
an
and win
overtime
the match.
match, yeah. It
Yeah,
was rough.
and later to win the match.
They had a chance to excuse me, they had a chance to repeat, and got a chance to play each other again in the semis, as Tim mentioned. And this is always, I thought we had two of the best semifinal matchups that we really could have asked for in this tournament. Liquid and Navi, I feel like always put on a great show, even though this was a 2-0. Both maps were 16-12 maps. Um, both maps were played. I mean, they were played really well. This was a tough matchup. On Overpass, really Liquid's CT side was just dominant, and they're proving to be just a dominant CT team. Um, but it was a fantastic match. I mean, we really got everything we could have asked for. We saw Flamey really step up in both games. We saw um, Twist again. I mean, Twist has just been so consistent for them, along with the Liege, that these guys are playing like two of the top 5 players in the world, kind of at the same time. And so they really gave us a good semifinals matchup there. I don't think we could have asked much more out of that one. And then on the flip side, you had Vitality and Astralis, right? And this is the first time that these two teams were meeting up.
Is it really? Like
Really,
ever?
yeah, first time that they've ever met up, and so
Hmm.
this was really a lot of excitement built up around this one for people just kind of waiting to see what was going to happen in this matchup. How was Alex going to play it tactically against Astralis? Vitality has been so hot, and man, again, like on Dust 2, their map pool is similar. We should mention. So this was also what made it intriguing. We were going to get three maps that we wanted to see here. They started off on Dust 2. Vitality looked really, really strong there on the first half. T side pulled out to a big lead, didn't let it go. Inferno took us to an overtime matchup. I believe it was double OT, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's
For
double or
Inferno?
triple OT. Yeah.
Yeah, it went to double
Um,
OT. Oh no, just
and
OT. Twenty-two
no,
nineteen.
was it? Yeah. So
So that's
that's
double
double
OT.
OT. Yeah,
I'm dumb.
double triple OT, whatever
I
it
know
is.
math.
Went to a couple OT matches again, and that's the one that Astralis ended up taking, and then it ended again. Overpass has turned out to be a fantastic decider match, or just a fantastic map in general. We've gotten some fantastic games on there. It's fun to watch, and they got steamrolled. Like Vitality looked strong, and the maps that they won, they dominated those games. It's not like I really ever felt like Astralis was in it. First half overpass was a close 8-7 ending, but on the CT side, Vitality again just like walked straight through them. So Vitality is proving to be a force, man. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see this coming, especially with the drama of NBK calling and how was he going to feel passing that to Alex. Now NBK calls CT side, Alex is calling terrorist side, which let's be real, the terrorist side is much more difficult to call. Like that actually involves a lot of strategic play and not holding angles. But it's working out. I mean, it's really fantastic, and maybe other teams kind of start to take this approach of having two IGLs and not having it fall on everyone,
Yeah,
on one
it's not a
person, I
bad
should say.
idea. I mean, especially
Yeah.
if you have like teams where a little shakier on the IGL side, right? You don't have like a top tier IGL. It's like, dude, worry about one half then. Like
Yeah.
don't worry about everything.
Get really good at one half of
Yeah,
the game, like
right.
master a half of it and let somebody else. And again, for them, NBK has been a great strat caller for a long time, and Alex doing the same thing on LDLC. So they're fortunate also to have two people that not only are willing to do it but are able to do it. So people would ask, well, why doesn't FaZe do that? Well, FaZe doesn't have one true IGL, so now you would be putting the duties on two people who are not necessarily comfortable with calling, and kind of taking two people out of their traditional gameplay. And so I think this is a great strategy, but for teams that have two competent callers or
Right.
shot callers.
Zaiwu, I know he's been on our radar for a while. Like
Yeah.
we've always liked him. I will take credit there. We've always kind of been talking highly about him ever since he kind of joined them and broke out onto the scene. This event just kind of proving everything to that point, getting MVP despite losing to Liquid 3-1 in the finals. And we could talk a little bit about those finals because I mean they were just as nutty. I can't believe at one point in time a liege was almost off this roster. Do you remember that when it was rumored that they were trying to shop him around? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure there was rumored at one point in time, like almost everyone on the original Liquid roster was
Well,
about
we
to
had
be gone.
Nitro, and
Yeah, like
like there was a lot of
Nitro was
people that
almost gone. A Liege, hell, Adren, their coach, was on the roster twice before. Right, he was kicked off, brought back, kicked off again. Now he's back as a coach. Um, and that's obviously proving to benefit their play style. I think he's got a little bit more of a hands off approach, right? Like because he was even interviewed afterwards. I don't know if he was really being 100% serious, but he was just saying like, look, it's just keep them focused, right? Like just
yeah.
keep them focused. That's all I got to do. Like they're good guys, they're good players. I'll let them handle the strats. I'm here to keep them focused on the goal. And if that's the case, if that's all they need, then bravo. He's got the easiest job in Counter Strike.
He's got them believing that not everybody needs to be a star player, right? Like you go and look at the ratings, and Stewie was the only one at a negative. I say a negative rating. He was under even on KD, right? So when you look at a stat like that, you're like, oh man, Stewie's not playing well. No, like Stewie is probably the reason this team is as good as they are right now, because he takes some very difficult positions, and um, really is able to do well, and where I feel like you put in an average player under that spot, they would be 50, 60 kills in a particular, tournament under KD, and Stewie pretty much holds it even. So they got all of them believing in one common goal, and that's just to win. And that's so important because I think we saw that same mentality from Astralis, during their epic run. It felt like everybody was there for one purpose, and that's how I feel Liquid's playing right now. With that being said, I think Zywoo is still the second best player in the world. As good as Elige and Twist are both
Right,
playing.
but isn't that kind of I we it's so funny. Take this audio that we're saying right now. Find our old episodes talking about Astralis, cut it up, take the word Astralis out of there and throw Liquid in there. It's the
Yeah,
same conversation, right? We said the same thing about Astralis. Like, well, you know what? It's not like they have the best player in the world. They don't have one dominating player. They have 5 players playing as one dominant
yeah,
player, right? Like the whole team is in sync. You also kind of saw that with Liquid with their utility usage, right? I did notice that it's funny how teams have kind of really adopted that from Astralis.
yeah.
Like really using their smokes and mollies smart and not just kind of before you just threw them for the sake of throwing them. Now you're holding
Using
on to
nades
them.
early to reduce HP before you even get into that initial fight. Like people are so preemptive with nades and timings are constantly changing. And yeah, these guys are staying ahead of the curve. And I think you're seeing that with Vitality, Liquid, and Astralis. Like they're still one step ahead in that category where I feel like everyone else is still kind of catching up. But yeah, they do a fantastic job of using utility, and then again, these guys are also skilled. I know we say Astralis doesn't have one dominant player, but Device is the
I mean, I'm
star
not trying to
in
say
that
that they're
sense.
not good. I mean, they're all top players. You
Yeah,
would take
they
any
can.
of them on your roster.
Three of them are top 10 players in the world,
Right, right,
right?
right. I'm not trying to say like, well, they all are subpar players playing good. No, they're all top tier players. I mean, they are all must have players on a roster. I'm not trying to say that.
Like
I'm
if
just
Tim,
saying
myself, and a couple of our buddies all played as one, we would play as one bad player,
right. Yeah, like
So there's a
we could
difference.
all be playing together. It's still not helping that situation at all. And then of course, the one bigger story out of all this too is that Liquid has already finished up the second season of the Intel Grand Slam. So that is, of course, winning 4 events that IEM is a part of. Not necessarily IEM events, because of course DreamHack Dallas was part of that and everything here. Um, but they ended up winning it, so they get that sweet $1 million prize. I think they ended up winning like 1.5 million. So that's not bad. That's like last place at the international. So that's congratulations.
Dude, they gave him gold bars. That's a win. That
Is
is a
that
win.
not
They
is
handed
that not the biggest ball? I messaged you as soon as I saw that. I was like, bro, if you're not a boss walking out of that, a straight up gold, and you know that's real gold. That's not
oh,
like plated.
100%.
That is
No.
legit a gold bar. Like I would just keep that by my bedside, and every time like a lady came over, I'd be like, oh, that old thing. That's a
It's a
gold
solid
bar.
200K that they were each holding in their hand right there. They had one for each of them,
It's
and that
nuts.
was cool. I mean, for them to do this in what, 63, 65
I believe
days
it was
roughly, I don't have the
63.
exact number.
Don't quote me,
Um,
but I think it's
it
63.
it took, just to kind of give you an example, Astralis a little over 200 and something days, 230,
I remember
240.
when it first.
Um,
Remember when they first announced it? We were like, no one's gonna get this.
no one's ever
No
gonna get
one.
this.
No one's
Yeah.
gonna get this. This $1 million is safe. And
Trust me,
now,
that's what Intel marketing thought too.
oh my god. And now they're like, well, we can't just back out. Like we can't just stop
And I
doing
think
this
they
now.
haven't confirmed a third like
The
iteration of
one
it
dude on
yet.
Twitter did say that like kind of hinted like nope, don't count us out. Now he didn't say $1 million. They might be tweaking the rules just a little
Yeah.
bit,
But
but
again, for them to
we'll
do it in
see.
63 days, that's 4 straight tournaments that they came out of here with, with the W, and that's
4
just
out of the 5 possible events,
yeah.
and I'll fight
And they
anyone.
did
I'll fight anyone that tells me it's not 4 out of 5. You see all these people saying 4 out of 4. No. They were at the major and lost. They got 5th place at the major. That was the first event for season 2. People are saying that no, it starts when they won one cuz now they're eligible for it. No, 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 no. They had a possibility to start it there, they didn't. 4 out of 5
But
events.
they've won 4 in a row. So they
Yes.
did win the
Don't
last
let,
4,
I'm
right? So
arguing semantics here. You know me.
yeah, yeah.
I, I'm
But
gonna
they,
argue
again,
for
to
sake of
do it
argument.
in the fashion they did it, as quickly as they've done it, in when I say the fashion, it's just the rise, right? Like Liquid was kind of the joke last year. Not that they were a bad team, but they couldn't beat
They were the
Astralis.
bridesmaid, never the bride.
Well, yeah, but even when they were going to finals and Astralis didn't make it to the finals, they ended up finding a way to lose those, right? They just couldn't
Yeah.
overcome that hurdle. Wow, it sounds like Liquid 2016 in my head, or early 2017 all over again with the choke jobs. But they had a really tough time, and I think once they kind of conquered, that first tournament win, they beat Astralis a couple of times. I mean, this is just a confidence thing with them right now. They are
And I do want to make
really
one
hitting
thing
on all
too.
cylinders.
I want to make
I'm
one
a
thing
little nervous
clear.
with the timing of the player break too, like coming up
Yeah.
prior to
Oh,
the major.
and one thing clear I want to make to our listeners is like if you're not like a big Counter-Strike fan or anything like that, or you don't keep up with it, the fact that we are talking about the number one team in the world and winning on European soil, being a North American team, is kind of mind blowing in the
Yeah,
CSGO scene. I mean, this has never happened that you are having a dominant number one in the world being a North American team.
or not Brazilian.
Wow,
I know
I don't.
I know they count Brazil as
They
NA
count them,
technically.
but we all know
It's not.
it's not.
It's different.
It's not.
It's a very like surreal feeling to see an NA team dominate the way they are. We thought we got our one and only when Cloud9 did it a year ago in Boston.
Well,
I
where
really thought that
and
was it.
it's crazy too, because like with Liquid success and Cloud Nine's major victory, you know, what, remind me how many major wins does Liquid have? None. Oh,
Get out of here. 0.
best
About to have
roster in
one.
NA history. What? Cloud Nine. What?
Wouldn't you say this is a more dominant run though? The most dominant run we've had in
Bro,
NA
no one
CS.
thought.
It's like
Yeah,
not
of
even
course.
close.
Like,
Like this
take the
is not
Cloud
even
Nine
close.
major. That was the most shocking run, right?
Yeah.
No one saw
Yeah.
Cloud Nine win that major and thought domination. Everyone
This
was
is
like,
number
"What
one.
the
This is
hell
it.
just happened?"
They moved up from like 9 to 6 or something, like
Right.
that's where that was at
No,
that
like
time.
Cloud Nine. They were on Cloud Nine to win that. This is
Yeah.
now proven. Like no one can say anything about Team Liquid being number one at this point. They just can't. They can't.
Even if they don't come out of the major a winner, they're still the best team in the world in my eyes at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah,
Like
I will say, I will own up to, I think last week I did say, like, if they don't win the major, none of this matters. I do
you
take that
win
back.
Cologne, it's a little
Yeah,
different.
I mean, I thought about it and I was like, you know what? And honestly, what was funny is when Zero said that he was off the team right before the major, that made me realize, like, oh, well, then if the players aren't taking this as serious, right? If the majors don't mean as much to the players, then it definitely doesn't mean as much to me when it comes to importance of winning or anything like that. So either way, good stuff there. I think the next event is Blast Pro Series, if we want to
Yeah,
consider that.
Is LA?
Yeah. Upcoming,
Is
you
this the
have
one that got is this the one
Chicago
that
is the
got
18th through
moved?
the 21st. Blast Pro Series is July 13th through the 14th. So that's this weekend.
Is this the
Today.
one that was moved to like a warehouse or something?
Oh yes. That will be interesting. Yes, that is a good point. So everyone watched the Los Angeles Blast Pro Series just to see what happened, because this was the one where they tried selling tickets. It did miserable. It was not selling tickets at all. So they moved it to a warehouse that also furnishes, like, it's a furniture store during the normal business hours, and then I guess they also rent it out though for it's like a for events. So this is one of them. So it's already we already have drama before even going into this.
Don't ever tell me that LA is the home of esports. It's only the home of the players that are all living in LA.
Yeah.
But you talk about an event having issues. I think of Dallas. You could host any event here in Dallas and it is going to sell out. It could be 5,000, it could be 10,000, it could be 15,000. You're not going to have a problem selling tickets. And so I don't ever want to hear LA is like the mecca of esports. It's really either
Do
Cologne.
people say that?
They do, they do, they say, that's, like, the number one. I think it's just because majority of players and stuff live there
Well,
in the US
companies
or
are out
they.
there, right?
Yeah,
But that's all
but
because they're
when
dumb
it
and they
comes
don't
to
know a
that,
value of
I
a
think
dollar.
Dallas is a clear-cut number 1 in the US.
Like people in LA are like, "Oh man, do you get like tax breaks there?" No. Well, cost of living must be pretty cheap. No, it's actually super high. No traffic? It's the worst. What do you got?
Earthquakes?
Palm trees. I don't know why. You
Good
got a beach, but
weather.
it takes you an hour to get there. So, yeah, you got earthquakes, I guess. So we'll see. Should be a wonderful event if not just because it also might be a disaster. Let's get into some clutch and kick though, because again, this episode's already running long. As we said, we could do two of these. We could do two. So back to my point. Let us know on Twitter at the Center Ring. What days do you want to? What days would work best for us to record on? That's the question. Because if we record on Monday, like we do now, the episode's out on Tuesday, pretty much. So that's what we want to know. Let's get into our first topic though of clutch or kick with incredible production value. Immortals Gaming Club, obviously just recently acquiring Infinite Esports, which is also Optic Gaming, everything there. It is a very badly kept secret that they are dismantling everything Optic related except for Call of Duty. This happened just last Monday while we were recording. They released their Gears of War roster, historic
Mhm.
roster, 17 champions under their belt. Absolutely ridiculous. Say what you want about the Gears of War scene, but 17 championships is
Well, odd timing with the new Gears of War coming out too.
true. I mean, yeah, you're dropping your most dominant roster yet, and it's not like you would think. Logic would be like, hey, we're gonna drop you from Optic, but then we're gonna pick you up with Immortals. Like that would be the logical thing if you wanted to keep that there, but they're not doing that. They're just cutting these loose. Now, this is also all off of the news that broke last week that in the new Call of Duty League with the franchises coming up, that they are allowing you to use your brand. So like it could be the LA Optics or Optic Gaming LA, right? You
Yeah.
could use that only if, and this is a big one, only if you are not using that same brand in any other part of esports. So Envy can't be the Dallas Envy, which great name by the way, but you can't do it because they obviously have Counter Strike and
I didn't know that was the rule behind it. That's interesting.
yep, that is the rule. That is the rule that I read anyways. So
Yeah.
that's why everyone's kind of picking up that, oh, well, this is why Optic is dropping all their roster because clearly if you spent the money, you want to keep that Optic brand and the only way you're keeping that is in Call of Duty. So drop everything else. They're dropping their Counter-Strike roster and now they're going to keep that brand in Call of Duty. So I ask you, are you clutching or kicking this move?
I mean, I'm kicking because I'm disappointed, and this is eventually what it's going to be, right? There's no turning back. Like if this is the decision that you're making, you've already got the LA spot. Lord only knows what you paid for that bid on that LA spot, so it was obviously incredibly important to Immortals organization to have that Optic brand for it. It's I'm almost split down the middle in the sense of I love that Optic is staying in the Call of Duty scene. It's just too heavily embedded in there, and if you've been to a CWL event or just a Call of Duty event in general, the green wall is truly a machine at those events. Like they
Oh, dude,
very
it makes or breaks if
overpowering.
they're
They're
in it.
everywhere. They're everywhere. And but
As
I
soon as
love
they
that, right?
leave,
Like
that place is a ghost town.
yeah, they play their match and people exit, come back for when Optic's playing. So on that side, I'm happy that they're at least staying and the brand is alive compared to what it could have been, right? They could have demolished them all together and just went into the Immortals brand. So at least there's a part of them still there. I'm sad for like some of the other games, not really Counter Strike. I don't feel like Optic has accomplished
They have
much
been
there for me
relevant
to care.
in
And it's been a
years.
long time since they've been in the scene. But like you said, Gears of War and Halo, like that means like I know they don't have a Halo team currently, but I was kind of hoping that, with Halo 5 coming out, they could kind of revive that brand and jump back into the scene. Optic's been a huge proponent of second tier esports games in that sense, like you said, with the Gears of War, and I hate to call Halo a
Also
second
known as
rate.
console.
Yeah, like console games, and so
Right.
I'm just it's like a catch 22 for me. Like I'm excited on one side that they're still alive in some way fashion, but disappointed that you lose a 17 times champion in any sport, right?
Right.
And in Halo, they have 10 plus, championships under their belt there. So to see them die off there completely is disappointing. But hey, again, it's better than where this really, I mean, better than where it could have turned out. There could be no
Right.
optic at all.
And I will say it's a clutch for me. I am completely buying into this. Again, I was never an Optic fan to begin with. Um,
Shocker.
I thought they were a joke out of an organization. I'm surprised they even lasted this long. I'm surprised they were sold for as much as they were, as far as a joke of an ownership that owned it. You know, no wonder Hex wasn't allowed back in. I understand that. I think it's a genius move by
Lord.
Immortals. Uh, but besides that, I do think you bought the brand for their Call of Duty side. And if they're giving you the option to keep that brand in Call of Duty, I mean, that's where the power is. Like, let's be real. We have never once talked about Gears of War on this podcast, maybe once to tell results.
And
But,
today.
and Halo, again, for the big tournaments and things like that. But it's just those scenes aren't worth keeping that money. Now maybe going in the future, right? Obviously, with esports the way it is now, it's easier to keep them that way. But they could easily start up Immortals Gaming for those, and it would be just the same for them while keeping the Optic brand. I do think this whole hashtag not Hex's Optic or whatever it is going around, I think that's more of the vocal minority. I do think the majority of the people have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and they just like the brand and they're a fan of the team anyways. So they're going to be a fan of the brand, right? They're going to go to the tournaments, they're going to see Optic, and you're going to wear your Optic jersey. So I
It's
think it's
also
a
the
smart
content
move by
creators,
them.
right? Like losing the content creators will also kill the brand off in that sense. It's not like any of them were doing a ton recently. Like some of them kind of went to like OG status in that sense and quit producing the same level of content that we were accustomed to from their early days and when they were
Right.
grinding it out. But you do lose really drawing in new fans, right? Because you cut the content creators that were going to do stuff under the Optic brand. They're not going to be as visible across all of esports, right? Like you'll
Right.
only become an Optic fan if you're new to the COD scene, which how many people are new to the COD scene
But
at
you're
this
also
point, even?
forgetting the power of uh geolocated
Yes,
geolocation
people will be
team.
fan of LA
Well,
gaming. They'll be
that's
a
what I'm
fan
saying.
of
They'll
like
be a fan of
LA.
LA Optic, and you add that with already. Like I said, the smartest thing they can do is bring in Hex to run that. I don't think that's happening from everything that I've picked up on.
No.
Um, and I do agree, like Zen said in Twitch chat, that Optic is a stronger brand than Immortals. I think everyone knows that. Like Optic is a way stronger brand than Immortals. That's why they want to use that Optic brand in their Call of Duty league. So, uh, you know,
But Immortals has a business side too. Like they have to represent their banner, in these
yeah.
games. So you can't blame them for any new game that's coming out to want to play under the Immortals banner and make the teal wall or whatever color they are. Like they
The
they want to
teal
have
wall.
their
That sounds so
their own
threatening.
their own brand. So you can't blame them for going that route. I understand what they're doing. I do not think Hex will have any sort of involvement with
No,
this optic.
I think that
Um,
bridge has been burnt.
I do want to see Hex back in the scene. So again, we have to play good cop, bad cop here. The TCR curse is from Tim. I'm on the other end of this.
Oh,
I do
it's
want
not
to
from me.
see.
It's from the universe. I
It's
didn't.
just
I didn't put. I just the God said.
them doing what they did caused the TCR curse to be on them. But yeah, I do want to see Hex back in the scene. So I'm hoping there's a chance for him to get back in at least Call of Duty somehow. But at this point, it's looking pretty bleak that he finds his way back into esports really anytime soon.
I think a lot more. There's a lot more red tape now than what there was the first time around, for him.
It's hard to just jump in, man. It's hard
Yeah.
to just jump in now.
On to our next topic here. C9 roster shuffle. This is for their CSGO team, of course. As the new roster that you are looking at, did I forget to type one in here? Automatic,
Putting it in.
thank you. Mixwell, Daps, Kusta, and Tens. Is that how you say his name? Tens?
Yeah.
Tenzi?
Tensky.
So, obviously went for a more your traditional NA roster, depending on what you consider Mixwell. Whatever he feels like being that week. He might be NA, might be Spanish, whatever he decides.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. I'll go first here as far as if I think this roster will take them to the next level. And now I'm going to preface this a couple ways. They're pretty low right now. So when I say next level, I'm just talking about being relevant.
Let's set the bar on this clutch or kick. Like,
Where are
what
they at
is
right
the?
now? World rankings. Where's Cloud9?
Let's just say they're top the 30 to 50, somewhere in that range.
Top 15.
Let's go top 10.
Top 10?
Okay, if we say top 10, it's probably kick.
Yeah, I was
As
going to say
both.
top 10's a kick for me
Okay, fine, 15.
because that's such a drastic. I'm going to say if you're looking at will this be a top 15 roster, I will say clutch. Mainly because a lot of these guys have been proven elsewhere. Like Kusta left Ghost because of a contract. Their contract was done. He wanted to move on. It wasn't like all the other EU side where they were washed up and then they signed him over. And like guys that you knew, they never really were going to be around. Like you knew like half the guys that they signed, like Flusha and all that, weren't sticking around to begin with. In fact, the irony that the only player that I felt wanted to actually play with Cloud9 being Keo was the one guy they wanted nothing to do with, which I thought he performed
Yeah.
well, but that's besides the point. Tens, younger talent, reminds me a little bit like a Stewie as far as like bringing him on, right? He's not as proven. He comes from team that starts with an L.
Avangard?
No. Mike Madonna
Um,
just invested in him. Lazarus? Is
Lazarus.
that a team?
Yeah, Lazarus is Madonna's team that he's with.
I think that's who he came from.
I'm drawing
Either way,
I'm drawing a blank on the team name right now.
I do think that this is a better roster than what they were. Oh, I guess I lied. Take that back. Take everything I just said back. Tens did not play for them.
I didn't think it was them. Isn't it a team
No.
with an A?
ATK.
ATK.
Either
There it
way,
was.
very, very not relevant, right? He was topping the pugs and everything, kind of like a pug star. Like I said, kind of like a Stewie when they brought him in here, which I've been saying for the long time. Like, they need to stop going for these elder talents to try to bring in and just make it work. They need to get veterans in there, which they have, with newer talent, which they have.
Is it me?
Yeah, I'll let you take it.
Man, I don't know. I'm not as hyped about this as everybody else is, and I feel like I'm the minority here. Sure, like, could they get into the top 15? Okay, yeah, I mean, they could. I don't think that's like a huge accomplishment in my eyes, to be top 15 at this point. That puts you on par with where Heroic, Renegades, Optic, Crazy, which I forgot who they were before that, Sprout, like Ancient. Those are the teams they're competing with for that, 14th and 15th slot there. So I don't think that's overly impressive. I think they could get there. I don't think this is ultimately going to be a roster that works out. I think there's parts of it that they end up keeping, right? Like I think you can build around Automatic. I think you can build around Tens. I'm not as high on Daps as most people seem to be. I think Daps is a good in-game leader. I don't think he's doing anything overly innovative. I thought he had some fantastic talent
Right.
on his
But he
last team
did
here
get
with
NRG
NRG.
to where they are now.
But they also added like Tarek, and they added some people to help overcome some of these hurdles that they were running into. And
Right.
so they needed to bring in more talent to make that work, right? So
Cloud9
between
just has to
Breezy,
get to that level, though, where players want to go there again. Like, this is not a major winning roster. Like, this is not
no,
going to be the Cloud9 that sends them back to the history books. But
This is
I
like a
think it's
minor qualifying roster.
yes, this is going to
Yeah.
be a roster that qualifies them that they can work around and pick pieces apart from here and there, and maybe players want to go back to them.
Well, I
That's how
think
I see it.
Kusta can be good. I'm happy. I'll tell you just a little on each of them. You know, Kusta, I think, has an opportunity to shine again. I'm excited he's getting a second opportunity on a big team. I think I mentioned that last week. He had a tough stint with Liquid the first time he was there. He took the op away from Simple.
Kind of
Looking back at it, they should have never done that or put him in that
bullied off that
position. So
team.
yeah, it's like it wasn't his fault. He was put into a really tough situation with an incredibly toxic Simple at that point on Liquid. Daps, I don't think is going to be able to frag hard enough to take them where they need to go. Mixwell has been playing competitive CS with that Rockstar Movie Star team, whatever I think they were called, Movie Star, and was still playing with some good level, playing some good level CS, but that team did not do a damn thing, right?
Right.
Automatic, this will be a fresher breath air for him. Automatic needed a change in scenery, and rather than him finding it on another team, they just changed everything around
Right.
him, right? So
You
that's a
think they
way of
went up to
doing
him
that.
and said, "What do you want?"
What can we do?
Yeah, like
Yeah, Tens to me is the big pickup here. I agree with you. Tens is a young star. He'll have an opportunity to really shine on this team, and they're going to set him up in positions for him, to be the frag star and make those plays. So um, I would like to see this team fight for the top 10 spot. I think they'll break top 15, though. I think this roster has an opportunity to break top 15. Hell, they get invited to enough tournaments based on their name alone that they're going to have an opportunity to gain points, right?
well,
So that's also really going to
funny
be
you
in their
bring that
favor.
up. You will be able to see this brand new roster this weekend at Blast Series LA.
Yeah, so
So
it'll be a
there
fun
you go.
start. I'm not going to judge too much off of this first tournament. They just haven't had a lot of time to get stuff together. But if they come out and perform well, like imagine the hope that it gives to the Cloud9 faithful out there. But they're not going to be a top 3 team NA. I don't think anytime soon.
No, no, but I think it puts them in a position to possibly do it.
It does.
Getting to the next and the last topic here for Clutch or Kick. With the first events being announced for Teamfight Tactics and Underlords, the two big auto chest games, is auto chest a thing to stay? Is all we'll say this for either Clutch or Kick, auto chess will be the next big esport out there. I'll let you go.
I'm going to kick. I think the game is cool for what it is. I think it's a fun, like I think of it as something I can like sit back and just kind of jump into, but I do not seeing this being a viewer friendly sport. It's like watching a little bit more exciting version of Hearthstone, like a card game, I should say. Hearthstone
Almost
is just the
less
one
exciting
that
in
I'm
my
throwing out there,
opinion.
right? But like it's gonna have a huge following. It's I don't think I've ever heard of a game having two esports within one game in the sense Dota, Underlords, Team Tactics tied to League of Legends. So I
Right.
don't, I just don't see that taking off in the sense of viewership numbers. It's going to have a huge following because they already have the fan base. They don't have to establish a new one. It's just people that are playing their main game, going off and playing, hanging out with the side chick over
Right.
here. You do that with Aram and a lot of those MOBA games too. So um I'm gonna kick it. I have a tough time believing they will ever find a way to make these viewer friendly and appealing sports. It's not a game you're gonna care to see on LAN. Um, even watching streamers now, I find it very difficult to sit there and watch.
So when I watched it on stream, first off, I've never played auto chess. I didn't know what it. I kind of knew had a vague idea on what they were, and so I started seeing Underlords pop up after E3 and Team Tactics. I don't really play League, so I can't do the Team Tactics one because you have to like be a certain rank or something of another. So I was like, all right, I'll try Underlords out just for the sake of doing it, right? First off, love it. I do think they're a lot of fun to play, much like Hearthstone in the sense of like it's strategy and it's addictive to play and then lose and be like, all right, well, I learned something new. I'm going to approach this way, or lots of meta involved with it. That being said, it is still like watching paint dry trying to
Yeah.
watch these games on Twitch. I mean, they are extremely, to me, boring to watch. And maybe having this at like a paired event, like have this at a League of Legends finals or the TI or Dota majors for like a pregame, if you want to do it that way, like that would make a little bit more sense. But as like a standalone event or venue or anything like that, like I don't see it. Like you set it up and I get their strategy, and then you click done, and then the game fights everything for you. So
Yeah,
it's
it'd be like watching Civ 5, like a Civ 5 tournament. Like it would just be kind of hard to sit
it,
there and
it,
take it.
the
I
hype is
do
not there.
agree. I want to throw this out there. It might be a little brash. Twitch Rivals will be the most popular event that these guys have in terms of viewership numbers because it's going to be all streamers. It's
Right.
64 streamers participating in this event. I think that will really be the most viewed event, not in terms of money or like how well they're trying to put it together, but the most viewed event for either of these games because I just don't see how you get the common person to jump in and care to watch, care to watch for an extended period of time at least. So just don't see it there.
Agreed. Agreed. So there it is. Clutch or kick. Let us know what you think. If you agreed with us, disagree. What would you clutch or kick? Let us know on Twitter at the center ring, or better yet, in our Discord, and be a part of that conversation. Get into some e-news. Light week this week. Obviously, with Cologne going on, there wasn't a whole lot going on in CS that we got to most of it. I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but obviously with the mix-up that Cloud9 is doing, Golden is going to be filling in for Nip at the major. So he found his way to the major. Congratulations.
They'll get that sticker money.
Gets to play in Get Right's last event. Overwatch, you have the Atlanta homestand with this last weekend. Of course, this is like their home tour that they're playing. We did it in Dallas and everything. We were there. Fun times. Atlanta ended up going 2-0. That's always nice to see. Home teams winning in their home city. That would have sucked. The crowd was okay. It was much smaller. I think their venue only held like 2,500 or so. They had to use thunder sticks, so that's an insta tune out for me. I hate thunder sticks, but wasn't bad overall.
How big was the Dallas homestand? 6K?
I was gonna say 7, so probably somewhere around there.
So cool though, and again, the fact that they won, it was that made it all the better. And I do like seeing these homestands as they're taking place, like just the first event and seeing the buy-in from a home audience, and it's just unusual to see in esports. So I mean, I'm cherishing each one of these as they come
Yeah,
up. It is pretty cool.
it's very true. Very true. Well, yeah, it also kind of gives you, I don't know if it's false hope or what, but like for when they actually start doing home and home or
Yeah,
home and away games next year, you kind of hope this can carry over for an extended period of time, and they're not just like the Blizzard Arena where they fill up a couple hundred seats.
yeah, it's just cool to see like everybody in the stadium cheering for one team. Like it's very rare in esports. It's usually
Yeah.
a split crowd. So
Definitely.
having everybody there kind of cheering together is pretty neat. But yeah, hopefully they figure that out. I think it's just going to be figuring out the crowd numbers ultimately. Like, how many can we sell?
The CWL ended up wrapping up this week, getting ready for Miami here in a couple of weeks. In Division A, you had Optic Gaming taking first, and in Division B, you had E United not only taking Division B, but also the whole league. They were the best
Yeah.
record there, so that will be prepped up for Miami for the league finals. And then in LA, you will have the Worlds. So why they do 2 championships? I don't know. You tell me which
How
one
do
means
you
more.
rank worlds in the sense of like how does seeding? Do you know how that works even for
I don't.
worlds versus?
I would be lying to you. I mean, I assume everyone gets into Worlds again, right? Like the World, think of it as like a TI, and
Yeah.
then the season is just for people who qualified for those playoffs. So in my eyes, season would kind of mean more, in my opinion, because it's like that's what
Like
you've been
it's an
fighting
earned
for.
spot. Yeah.
But World, so I don't know. I don't know.
Whatever.
That's
They're
something
both
to ask the player.
big, both relatively close to each other. That's Call of Duty for you, kind of in a nutshell.
Right. Yeah. Is it ever?
Hey, new game is coming out. Quickly do a couple more.
I gotta pump out another tournament. Please hurry
Pump
up.
out another one. Call it Worlds. They'll never know.
And that's really all I got for e-news. Do you have anything else to bring to the table?
I didn't. I actually deleted one of our topics on there. I didn't think it was worthy for our audience. So, no, man, it was a little bit light. I say it was light. Cologne gave me everything I needed for
That's
this
what I'm
past
saying,
weekend.
like
If you were a fan of CS, you had one hell of an esports weekend. So,
Good stuff, man. That was a good show. Long show. Like I said, we
shocker.
could definitely squeeze this in.
What was that, 45 minutes? 45, 50 minutes? How long was that?
So far, it looks like an hour 16. Time flies by, though, when you're having fun. And that's what we do here on TCR. Just having fun. That will do it for episode 165 of The Center Ring, a.k.a. TCR, a.k.a. your favorite esports podcast. We will be back next week talking about stuff. Maybe
esportsy stuff.
some exciting drama happened at Blast Pro Series. Maybe they switched the event to like a McDonald's or something to fill it. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that will be next Monday. Again, if you don't already, follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Let us know what you think of the show. We would love to hear from you. Join our
Tell
Discord.
us again. Remember, tell us your thoughts on days y'all are interested in hearing a possible.
Yeah,
second
we really want to do 2 episodes a week. We're trying to get a feel for what days would work better for listeners or anything like that. So again, we will be at the Overwatch League Finals in Philadelphia, so hit us up if you're going to that. Love to meet you. Maybe schedule a time. But that's for later. This is now for a new Tim. We'll see ya.